Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Good.
Go ahead and get started. Good evening. I am Tom Burrows, Commissioner at Large, District 2. Tonight, however, I will be acting as Mayor Pro Tem due to the unavailability of Mayor Garner. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioner staff and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. If public comments are allowed on an agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic of that item. Per the Commission Rules of Procedure, comments should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners for November 21st, 2024 to order and would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Townsend,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Hill, Kane,
Here.
Lopez,
Here. Happy birthday, Mike.
Stites,
Tom.
Davis,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Burrows,
Here.
Garner.
Thank you. Tonight's the invocation is being given by Chaplain Annie Erickson. And upon the pledge prayer, after the prayer, please keep standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Chaplain, please.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, I am so grateful for each person here, for those in front of me, Mayor Pro Tem Burrows, the commissioners, County Administrator Johnston, and the other government representatives, and for those behind me, members of the community in which we live. Help us to remember that we are all on the same team. All of us have a vested interest in this community and want to make it even better. Each one of us has something to offer. Grant that we would put our gifts and skills to good use. Give us wisdom and creativity to address the issues at hand. Above all, God, give us a spirit of camaraderie and unity as we work together for the good of Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain Erickson. I'll ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
There are no revisions.
Thank you. That takes us to the mayor's agenda, and that's items number 61-64 proclamations. Clerk, please read.
Proclamation. Now therefore I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of November 11 through 15, 2024 as Navy Week in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation. Now therefore I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Sunday, November 17th, 2024 as First Baptist Church Day in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim November 23rd, 2024 as Kansas City, Kansas Fire Station 11 Day in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. In acknowledgement of the centennial celebration of Kansas City, Kansas Fire Station 11, I urge all citizens to give special recognition to the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department and its dedicated members, both past and present, for their extraordinary dedication to the citizens of Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2024 as Stomach Cancer Awareness Month in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That takes us to the next item. The last item under the mayor's agenda is a presentation from the Municipal Court Administrative Judge, Judge Schultz, and from the Prosecutor's Office, Mr. John Khalil. Judge Schultz, is he here? Judge Schultz, welcome to the commission this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, County Administrator. I'm very happy to be in front of you again today. And just for the people online, I am Judge Schultz, the Administrative Judge for Kansas City, Kansas Municipal Court. I'm just here to kind of give you an update about the diversion program that we have for marijuana. And it looks like they got it set up, so this is good. This is good. So as you know, Missouri legalized marijuana. The recreational use passed in November of 2022, and they started selling cannabis in February of 2023. Colorado legalized marijuana on our west. Recreational use passed in 2012, with sales to begin back in 2014. According to the Pew Research Center, 24 states plus the District of Columbia have legalized marijuana, and another 14 states allow sales of marijuana for medicinal use. There are 20 states that have varying amounts of marijuana legality, have actually decriminalized recreational marijuana use. Kansas is not one of them. And in fact, 2 or more convictions of marijuana is a felony. A first conviction is a Class B misdemeanor, which is up to 6 months in jail, plus up to a $1,000 fine. A second conviction of marijuana possession is a Class A misdemeanor, up to 1 year in jail, and up to a $2,500 fine. A third conviction is a drug severity level 5 felony with up to 10 to 42 months in prison and up to a $100,000 fine. Knowing all of that, when Mayor Garner had created that task force as to what to do regarding marijuana, we wanted to make sure that people understood the seriousness of what a third conviction could do to them, but also accept the reality of what America is like now, right? I mean, marijuana is legalized all around us, and particularly younger adults. We want to make sure that they don't end up ruining their life for foolish choices that they may have made. So one of the things that we had looked at was the prior data. In 2021, there were 101 charges filed for possession of marijuana and 174 for possession of drug paraphernalia. In 2022, 108 for possession of marijuana and 181 for possession of drug paraphernalia. Now, once Missouri legalized marijuana, we had 116 charges for possession of marijuana and 213 for possession of drug paraphernalia. And then for 2024 up to the end of October, we had 67 possession of marijuana charges and 191 charges for possession of drug paraphernalia. So the diversion program that we had developed, a diversion is a contract between the prosecutor's office and a defendant. And during the time of that contract, the prosecutor agrees to delay or defer prosecution of the case if the defendant meets certain requirements. And if they meet those certain requirements within the time period, the diversion is dismissed. Diversion is at the discretion of the prosecutor, and in discussions with them, they changed some of the requirements for a diversion and allowed people to get more than one diversion. Usually it had only been, you got one diversion and that was it. Now they can have one per year. I'm not sure if it's calendar year or actual year. I'm sure Mr. Khalil can enlighten us on that.
Welcome, Mr. Khalil.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Burrows. John Khalil, City Prosecutor. I believe it is one per calendar year is what we've gone to with these marijuana, the possession of marijuana and possession of paraphernalia charges at this time.
And there is a $100 diversion fee and a video that people must watch. And there's a survey that they have to answer to provide proof that they actually watched the video. And during the time period from October 1st of 2023, which is when we really started this, to October 1st of 2024, 14 people opted to do diversion for possession of marijuana and 8 opted to do it for possession of drug paraphernalia. So this is something that we can offer. We cannot force anybody to accept it. Also, you know, the prosecutor's office does still have some requirements regarding background, whether or not someone qualifies. And successfully, 10 people have completed the possession of marijuana diversion and 10 have completed the possession of drug paraphernalia diversion. And with this, we also elected to waive the expungement fee for possession of marijuana and possession of drug paraphernalia for a term of 1 year, starting October 1st of 2023 to October 1st of 2024. You have to wait under Kansas state statute 3 years to expunge a conviction of marijuana possession, and the 3 years runs from the time that the case is completed. So the usual fee is $50. We went ahead and waived that. And nobody took advantage of it. And actually what I ended up doing was we looked at the data from October 1st of 2020 to October 1st of 2023. During that time, there were 18 people that filed for expungement. None of those during that time period were for possession of marijuana or possession of drug paraphernalia. And then from October 1st of 2023 to October 1st of 2024, when we waived the fee, there were 4 total expungements applied for. None of those were for the charges of possession of marijuana or possession of drug paraphernalia. When we got those results after we ran our reports, I had Mr. Janook, our court administrator, go back further and had him look back starting October 1st of 2018. And yet again, out of all the expungements that were filed all the way up through October 1st of 2024, there were a total of 73. None were for possession of marijuana or possession of drug paraphernalia. So because of that, at this time, we have gone ahead and imposed the $50 fee again, since nobody took advantage of it. You know, if we were to discover that it was a lack of information or knowledge, I thought that it was publicized, but if we came to know that it, you know, that was the circumstance affecting it, I'm sure we would consider doing that again for some sort of limited amount of time to see if it worked. But overall, when people come and we tell them that they can get diversion, the onus is on them. Or when we inform them that they can, request an expungement, it is on them to actually do that. As far as filing an expungement, we do try to make it as easy as possible. We have pre-printed forms that are fill in the blank. If people don't know their case number or anything like that, our clerk's office is ready and willing and able to give them that information. They fill out the form, it gets submitted to the prosecutor's office. If the prosecutor's office does not have a dispute with it, it comes to us. We sign it. We only have a hearing if the prosecutor's office requests it due to public safety reasons. And then at that time, we would schedule a hearing. Since I've been on the bench, I've had one hearing. The prosecutor's office usually, they do their due diligence, checking the person's criminal background, and they don't usually, have a fault with it. But I don't know exactly what else we can do. We did work with Strategic Communications when all of this started. And in fact, they are the ones who created the video that people watch. It is an educational video. It is not meant to do treatment or anything like that. And in fact, I think we have, God, I hope this works. Yes. I'm not great at technology, I'll be honest.
You are watching this video because you were recently arrested for the possession of marijuana or drug paraphernalia in the city of Kansas City, Kansas. You have agreed to participate in our diversion program to avoid criminal penalties for this offense. Possession of marijuana in the state of Kansas is illegal. While other states around us have legalized recreational and/or medicinal use of the drug, you are not permitted to smoke in public or transport marijuana within the state or across state borders. The sale or purchase of marijuana is also not permitted. No arrest is ever a good thing. However, we at the unified government recognize the importance of showing compassion and understanding when a mistake is made. We've created this program to allow you to accept diversion and keep your record clean when arrested for marijuana possession. This can help you avoid costly fines, fees, and possible jail time. Just 3 charges of possession can lead to a felony charge, which can have a lasting impact on your future. We encourage you to listen to this video for a better understanding of the consequences of marijuana use. We hope you will find this helpful while providing you with the opportunity to earn lenience with your participation. Marijuana, which goes by many slang terms, contains a substantial amount of THC, a psychoactive chemical compound that can impact you in different ways. THC can cause 2 types of impairment generally: behavioral impairment and physiological impairment. Behavioral impairment is our response to external stimuli or the world around you. Impairment may include a lack of concentration, decreased ability to perform divided attention tasks such as driving, altered perception of time and/or distance, and relaxed inhibitions. Physiological impairment is how our body functions, which can include slower reaction times, rapid changes in heart rate, body temperature, and blood pressure, irritated, red eyes, dry mouth, and throat. Marijuana creates both behavioral and physiological impairment, altering the basic cognitive functions necessary to handle essential life functions and drive normally, putting you at high risk of a DUI should you make the mistake of getting behind the wheel while high. The federal government has not funded research on the long-term impacts of marijuana, so most information we have here is limited. However, we do know that there are more than 400 chemicals on average found in a cannabis plant, so we know there's a lot that we don't know. Regardless, THC has been proven to slow reaction time, reduce focus, and temporarily weaken problem-solving skills. According to Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, use of marijuana among people ages 17 and under can have specific impacts on developing minds and bodies, such as neuropsychological and neurodevelopmental decline, poor school performance, increased dropout rates, increased risk for psychotic disorders in adulthood, increased risk for later depression and suicidal ideation or behavior. If you are young, The consequences of marijuana usage could further disrupt your future and opportunities ahead. Like any drug, consuming marijuana with other drugs or alcohol can cause unintended reactions and harm. Even as more people become familiar with cannabis and calls for national legalization grow, there remains a significant disconnect between people's views on its use and safe driving, emphasizing the need for effective public outreach and education. There is research, however, pointing to the increased THC levels in recreational marijuana sales, increasing potency for the drug. With no federal regulations, quality control and potential contamination of marijuana supply can go unnoticed, putting users at risk. There's no way to be certain of what you are getting, so why risk it? Possession is when you are arrested for having marijuana and/or drug paraphernalia on your person in the state of Kansas and in Kansas City, Kansas. Penalties for possession escalate with each incident. First-time offense, Class B misdemeanor, 6 months in jail, $1,000 fine. Second-time offense, Class A misdemeanor, 1 year in jail, $2.5 thousand fine. Third-time offense, felony, 10 to 42 months in jail, $100,000 fine. It is up to you to take advantage of this program, or else the consequences can add up. While this program is not directed at DUI offenses, driving while under the influence of marijuana can impact your reaction time. Combined with alcohol, there can be even more substantial impairment. While this is not the reason you are here, it is still important to understand that if you feel different, you drive different. Penalties for driving high also escalate with each arrest. Research shows marijuana can slow reaction time, impair judgment of distance, and decrease coordination, all skills necessary for the safe operating of a vehicle. A AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety survey found that 95% of people say driving while over the legal blood alcohol concentration limit is very or extremely dangerous, but only 69% believe it is dangerous to drive within an hour of consuming cannabis. Some people even think that marijuana use improves their driving, but research confirms that cannabis directly affects the parts of the brain responsible for attention, decision-making, coordination, and reaction time, which are all critical for safe driving. Although several states have legalized marijuana use, driving when impaired by any substance remains illegal in all 50 states and in Washington, D.C. Knowing your limits, waiting a few hours, and designating a sober driver will help you avoid the consequences of a DUI. Don't drive high. Take the Green Pass. Until there are changes in state legislation, the possession of marijuana is illegal in the state of Kansas and city of Kansas City, Kansas. We all make mistakes, so we've created this opportunity for you to defer penalties for marijuana consumption and possession. Please don't miss this chance to keep your record clean and avoid harsher consequences in the future. We hope the information provided to you today will help with your choices down the road. If you need additional resources, please visit our website at wicokck.org. In the meantime, thank you for helping us keep our community safe.
So it's not, the video is not hard, right, to watch. It's not long. It is easy for people to be successful on this marijuana diversion program. I'm happy to take any questions, and I know Mr. Khalil is happy to take any questions as well. Thank you so much for letting me present.
Thank you. Commission, any comments? Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Judge Schultz. Good to see you. I appreciate you and your staff doing everything possible to make it easier for our citizens while being brought to justice, so to speak, make it easier for them to continue with their lives, lowering penalties and other things that you said you were going to do. So I appreciate that. Is the viewing of the tape the only requirement for the diversion program?
There is a $100 diversion fee. They have to view the video and then answer questions about the video. And then that gets transmitted to the prosecutor's office as proof that they actually watched the video.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, you talked about how few people take advantage of the $50 waiver fee. How many times in the process are they told about the availability of that waiver from the time that they come to you? How many times?
So the people that were eligible for it were people that had been, had convictions that were 3 years old. And so like, if somebody got a conviction during that October 1st of 2023 to October 1st of 2024, they would not be eligible to request an expungement with a fee waiver. That was advertised kind of through social media and just kind of out through strategic communications to people that had convictions that were 3 years old or older.
Okay, all right. And so if someone is not taking advantage currently of your diversion program, they might be in that category that would benefit from the waiver later. I can't imagine why someone wouldn't take advantage of the diversion program. Okay,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
there are a lot who just, they come in and they say they just want to waive their right to an attorney and they want to just enter a plea right then and there and pay. And we explain to them, this is a conviction. It's a Class B misdemeanor. You get a second, it's a Class A.
Mhm.
You face a third, it could be a felony. And, you know, if they knowingly waive their rights, there's not much that I can do or Mr. Khalil can do to convince them, take some time, think about it.
When it's offered to them, the right to, or the option to go through the diversion, are they explained how simple it is, looking at the video, taking a small, I guess, test?
Yes, when I tell people that they're eligible for diversion and we send them to talk to Mr. Khalil, whoever is in there, and they explain it's $100 diversion fee, you have to watch a video, take a survey.
Mhm. Okay, one last question, have any expressed their inability to pay the $100?
No, but we also have ability to pay hearings available for
Okay,
someone if they did have difficulty paying it.
okay. Appreciate your comments and all that you are doing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Just a question. Would you explain what brings a person into your courtroom on a marijuana charge? Like what has transpired? Is it KCK police or just tell us?
Either KCK PD, KU Med Center Police, a lot of people end up going to the hospital with their marijuana with them. And so that's how we get some cases when they go through security, you know, to visit people in the hospital. So, that or technically, if a railroad police officer did a traffic stop and it was, you know, somehow discovered during that, we could get it. We could also get it from the sheriff's department. So it would be someone encountering one of the law enforcement agencies that files cases with our court.
Okay, thank you. Because some cases are not going to be in your court, right?
Correct, correct. Some will be in district court.
And the threshold for that is what? What's the difference?
So on the Wyandotte County Sheriff's deputies, I know they have some discretion whether to file in city or in district court if they're within the confines of the city of Kansas City, Kansas. If a sheriff's deputy, you know, has some sort of stop in Bonner or Edwardsville, that would either go through their city courts or the district court. As far as KCKPD, it's my understanding that it has to be more than simple possession of marijuana for them to file in district court. That would be more like an intent to distribute
Okay.
type of case. So if Joe Smith is found, you know, on a traffic stop and he, you know, has his blunt in his hand, he's not going to be charged in district court, most likely by the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department.
Okay, he's gonna come into your courtroom.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Thank you, Judge Schultz, and thank you to just you and your staff for what you've done. And it seems you've tried to do what you can to make these programs be out there. And I know this is something, when we talk about strategic communications, something that Commissioner Kane has said in the past multiple times is not everyone has computer, not everyone has social media. And so maybe in the future, if we were, let's say the waived fee for the expungements, if you were to reinstate that at some time in the future, maybe working with the different organizations to help spread that information. One organization that would be perfect for that. Everyone receives a bill every month, the BPU bill. Put a little information of this is what is happening in municipal court. These are the programs that we have going on. I think that would be a good idea so that we can get more of our residents going through these programs. The one question I had was it pertained to when your slide of giving year breakdowns of charges
Mhm.
filed and what is if you can, what's the age span of the types of people that is it more young or is it more older, more middle? What's the age span of those who are?
Those type of charges, we
Yeah.
tend to skew younger.
Okay.
We're not regularly getting people like me in their mid to late 40s and 50s with that kind of charge. It's mostly, 18 to 28 years of age is kind of the target that seems to get those type of charges.
Okay. And I know, and I always, until you mentioned it in your presentation, I forgot, Kansas, we are a 3-strike state. And that is I don't, personally for me, I do not believe in that. For some people may think it is a bigger issue, but as a minimal issue as it is, yes, causes impairment. Yes, it could cause other legal issues. But what you just mentioned saying, 1824, let's say your first possession's 18, next one's you're at 19. And then when you're 20 years old, you have a felony charge on your record. Your life is restricted. Your life is kind of done because you have that charge on your record. And you're only 20 years old. And life isn't easy. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of socioeconomic issues that push people to do stuff like that. But I don't agree with the 3-strike law because we're taking away lives or young people's ability to have lives in the future. And I know a lot of states and a lot of municipalities are doing good work to reintegration programs for those who have felony charges or who have coming out of prison, but it would be nice if they wouldn't even have to go through all of that in the first place. So I just thank you for your work, your continued work to try to make things easier. I know, you and I have had conversations in the past and working with municipal court and trying to figure out what fees and fines we can do to make it easier. Because it's already a bad day when they have to come to court. Let's not make it any more harder on them. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. I will tell you, we are, starting February 1st, we are going to move our morning court time to 8:30 in the morning instead of 8. And one of the reasons we're doing that is to make it easier for people that have to rely on public transportation to make it to court. It will also help our security with opening the building and that kind of stuff. But one of the ways that we are getting the word out is we're gonna do an insert in people's BPU bills. So that suggestion is a great one.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you. You always bring, Judge, just a tremendous amount of information. I'm a big fan, and so really thankful. You, Dominic, y'all are doing just incredible work, not just on this issue, Ms. Khalil as well, our legal department. It's just this is, I think, in line with the values of our community, where we do not relish in locking people up. We don't relish in ruining people's lives, having stick a whole bunch of money and their time in court. And so thank you so much. There are some folks in our community that I think this particular initiative is decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana, which it is not. And I've had to educate folks. So I would even say for our colleagues here, it would be super important just for us to even remind our constituents that I know, listen, if you go east on Southwest Boulevard, it is literally, I mean, it's in your district, it is literally a change, right? And for a lot of people, it's a regional experience for Kansas City. Right. It's not Mission and KCK and all. For visitors, it's a regional experience. Right. And so I think, we're going to have to do our part, as folks that are educated to keep folks knowledgeable about what's going on. In addition to the BPU bill, I'll make some other recommendations. Maybe having somebody that has successfully gone through the diversion program do a testimony of some sort. I know our comms department is very, very capable, but sometimes if it's somebody that or familiar with or from the dot that is kind of giving that perspective, it could help. It boggles my mind that people are just saying no to this. It boggles my mind. The other thing, and I love that the BPU bill idea is coming up, but our transit systems, that might be another opportunity, right? Whether it's our buses or what have you, to also promote just to get that information out there. But again, you all are doing a phenomenal job. Legal department's doing a phenomenal job. Thank you so much for your efforts on this program.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for the presentation this evening, Judge. One quick question. After the third conviction, there's $100,000 fine, I think was
It could be
according,
up to.
up to.
Yes.
What
yeah.
happens if they can't pay it?
Judge Martinez is here and he might be able to answer that better.
Right.
On a felony case.
Judge, could you please come up to the microphone so we can make
And
make a record?
throwing you under the bus. No, I'm not.
In a felony case, if they can't pay their fines, we just keep them on probation forever. That's not what we really want to do, but that's what happens. If it just goes to collections, which sometimes in traffic court that happens, but in criminal court, no, we just keep them on probation for usually a long period of time until it gets brought to a particular judge's attention that basically it's kind of a debtor's jail type thing, and we don't do that anymore. So then it would be up to the judge what he wants to do, and really the prosecutor, Mark Dupree, would have a lot to say in that regard too. It's a problem because people can't pay. What do? It's part of probation. Okay, you're supposed to pay. So do we keep them on probation forever and ever, knowing that their socioeconomic situation is not going to get any better? It'll be up to the judge. Oftentimes, I mean, we had an argument today with one of the prosecutors about the fact that someone didn't do everything he was supposed to do in probation on a felony case. And, we revoke, do we? Because the DA just said, we're just gonna pull back our motion to revoke his probation, and we're asking that the case be dismissed. This is a gentleman who had been on probation for drug abuse. He had like 4 or 5 different charges, and he got a great deal. He had a great attorney. The judge was in agreement on the deal that was worked out. Put him on probation on a misdemeanor charge. And yet he messed his diversion up, was revoked, was then put on probation, and has messed that up.
So,
And-
so
and
then
then-
he had 2 bites at the apple.
Yes, and then
instead of
he
six months.
he comes back into this particular judge's court, and the DA says, let's just go ahead and terminate probation, unsuccessful. Because he relapsed with marijuana first, then with methamphetamine. So what does the judge do? Because the concern is the community's safety. Okay? This was a gentleman that actually had been put on probation and had, I'll just say this, had treated his probation officer, a woman, badly. The DA wants to just dismiss the probation. So the judge is put into a situation where he has to consider the community, the safety issue. And, you know, what do you do? So it works that way too. If you can't pay, he can't pay, he hasn't paid. What do we do? It's the judge's discretion. So that's what happens. Some judges say, well, he's gonna do some time. He not going to prison because it was, the plea agreement said that's gonna go away, but he's pleading to a misdemeanor. So he can do up to a year in jail, okay, and he's failed twice. You know, he's had three bites of the apple in my estimation, because first of all, we're all on probation every day. Every day. It's when you screw up that you get on probation in front of me. Okay, diversion, then your probation. So he's had 3 bites of the apple. So what does the judge do? I mean, I have to, you have to think about community safety. I have to think about community safety just to release him without any kind of accountability. That's hard because I have to worry about if this gentleman turns around and he reoffends while he's on drugs and injures your daughter, injures you, injures your daughter, injures you, injures my wife. Then what do we do? People are gonna look at me and say, you let that happen? And then I point to Mark and say, no, the DA let that happen. I didn't because they wanted me to just let this guy go. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. You put me on the spot. Well, this is on you.
Thank
You put me
thank
on
you,
the
Judge.
But it comes down, and when it comes down to money too, I mean, sometimes it's just, we'll just send it to collections if we can and let them deal with it. But it's hard. Anyway.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Al. Good to see you. I hope that puts, you know, in state court. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But congratulations. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Hill, any other questions? Okay. Commissioner Lopez.
Just a quick question. If marijuana was legalized, how much would that clean up your docket?
Even if marijuana was legalized, we'd still have people getting DUIs associated with marijuana. I mean, it would help the simple possession and the possession of marijuana related paraphernalia, but it wouldn't, I mean, it would have a small, it wouldn't be a huge impact.
Okay.
I mean, it would have a large impact on people who are charged with it, you know, but on our docket size, it wouldn't be that big. Because a lot of the marijuana charges are associated with a DUI. And those charges are not eligible for the diversion program. If you get a DUI while you have the possession of marijuana, that this program is not for you. You're not eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none, Judge, thank you. And I would just state that the inability to pay for a felony is due to the fact that you've missed the opportunity or chose to or you refused to enter into diversion on the first 2 cases. So I appreciate your comments and Judge Martinez, I know you were put on the spot, but thank you for your comments. Appreciate it very much. Committee, this was for information only. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Schultz.
Have a good
Appreciate it.
evening.
And Mr. Khalil, thank you very much. Okay. Committee, that takes us to the regular consent agenda for this evening. And any member of the commission or county administrator wishes to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda. If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Okay. Oh, Commissioner Lopez, my apologies.
Yeah, I want to pull 7.2, the resolution, third amendment to the performance agreement for the criterion development. Just wanted to talk about that.
David, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the approval of all other remaining items on the regular consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to our set aside item. And that is item 7.2. That's the third amendment to the performance agreement of the criterion development. I would ask, do we have staff here available for any discussion? Good evening, Chelsea.
Hello, Chelsea. Chelsea Chisholm, Economic Development Director. Thank you. Up for consideration is a resolution authorizing the mayor CEO to execute the third amendment to the performance agreement for a 232 unit commercial multifamily development located at the corner of State Avenue and 115th Street. This contemplates the issuance of bonds for a property tax abatement in an amount not to exceed $62 million. This project is located within the American Royal Star Bond District. It was originally slated to commence construction by July 1st, 2023, with substantial completion before August 1st, 2025. Approval of this third amendment to the performance agreement would delay the commencement date until December 31st, 2025, and delay the completion date until December 31st, 2027. We also have Kurt Peterson here tonight. He is here representing the developer and can answer any questions that you may have from that perspective.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Commissioner Lopez, any comments?
Yeah, well, first of all, when we just met with our latest legislative earlier, we were going through these lists and protect star bonds. But then when I was looking at this, and I'm on this committee that pushed this, but got to thinking about it and looking into it more. I think it just kind of slipped through, but there's what's star bond, or like what sales tax is this? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's fit for a star bond district. That's just my question.
Ms. Chisholm, if you have a response, you're free to.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's an accurate observation. In a star bond district, we would prefer uses that would generate sales taxes. This is not a use that would generate sales taxes. So in my opinion, this may not be the highest and best use for this property, but that is also for the commission to decide of whether or not they want to allow this use within this star bond district.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I would maybe to that point ask Kurt Peterson to come forward because our synopsis says it's a commercial and multifamily development. So that makes me think there are activities within the Criterion project where sales tax would be collected, but maybe you can help us understand better.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Kurt Peterson here on behalf of Criterion, the developer. There's not any, I don't know which words you're reading in what staff packet, but I can speak to the project. This is a horizontal effect. We called it horizontal apartments when this was first approved because that's what it is. It's a build to rent community. Very nice. at this point, debating whether or not this should be on this land, I think it's probably a little late. There's been tons invested. We're all the way through final development plan on this property, and we had lots of hearings on it and discussions. But I will say this, just and answer any other questions Commissioner Lopez has or anybody else, but I will say this. Most Starbond districts that I've been a part of in the state of Kansas have had some sort of mixed use that had some residential, because rooftops are absolutely necessary and supportive of the commercial. So I personally, it's an opinion, I don't see this as any different. I could go through projects, whether it's all the way back Schlitterbahn, now Homefield, all that. We know what's happening there. We know all the multifamily that's gone around on the west side of 435. I can name other cities, but I see it as hand in glove. You would not fill your whole Starbond district with residential, but I think it's pretty darn imperative they give some in a district this big.
I think that's a valid point when you point out the Homefield development. There's a big apartment complex there. And then there's the Legends 267. So you're right about the fact that we have Starbond districts that have residential in them right now.
Commercial doesn't survive by itself. It does need
Correct.
rooftops.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, Commissioner Lopez? Any other comments?
Well, I mean, I know that this isn't in my district, and I know that it's just on the agenda, and I'm on the committee that but if there's no sales tax, how does it get paid through Starbond? I mean, how would it fit? That's my question, is how would it fit?
So you're right, Commissioner Lopez. It doesn't, since it doesn't have sales, it doesn't generate any Starbond revenues to support Starbonds, and it also doesn't receive any Starbond revenues. That's right.
It doesn't receive Starbond revenue?
No, sir.
Seeing none. Any other questions? If there's no other questions or comment, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion to approve. Motion and a second. Please call roll.
Roll call Townsend,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. That takes us to the next part of our agenda this evening, and that's the administrator's agenda. We have one item under the administrator's agenda, which is the presentation of the 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. I'll ask the county administrator, Mr. David Johnson, to make opening remarks and introduce staff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate the opportunity to finally have this presentation of the 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report that many of you commissioners have been looking for. This is an indication that our 2023 audit is completed, and we have Dr. Knieven, our CFO, to make a presentation and answer any questions that you may have. So Dr. Knieven.
Thank you. Online, we have Jacob Holman, who's with Forbes Mazars. It'll be a phone number.
Is it an
and he-
816 number?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And he is online. He apologizes he could not be here in person. He actually had another client that he had already committed to present to tonight. So he's presenting to Act First. So, but he's online and will cover part of this presentation. I will make it somewhat quick, but I am always available for follow-up discussions. This is your ACFR, okay? And I'm only going to spend about 5 minutes on each page. Okay, so I'll make it quick. But I am glad to follow up and answer any questions, or you're always welcome to contact our auditors directly for them to answer any questions you might have. So real quickly, our audit team, as I mentioned, is Jacob Holman and Shane Nickel were the two key partners that work at Forbes Mazars. This is the second year that they've been our auditors. They are one of the big firms here in Kansas City, and they have a lot of local government clients, so they're very well versed in this work. And so we've appreciated having the experience with them, and they've lived with us through the transition into a new financial management system from our old system, Kayenta, over to Workday. And this 24 year, the fiscal year we're in right now, is really the first year that all of our information's in the new system, because payroll was still in the old system last year. So for 23, they were having to pull data and look at information from 2 different systems. So it's challenging. It's behind in terms of when we ideally would want to get this to you, as was last year's. But we're very encouraged that we're back on track, and we'll have a hard close of the 24 budget and immediately commence on the ACFR for the 24 budget and have that to you and by the end of June, which is the appropriate timeframe. So we'll be back on an appropriate schedule. A few folks on the team that have been real instrumental in terms of the audit, but also some additional information that was requested by the commission. Pam Kahoo is our accounting manager. I don't know if you've ever met Pam, but Pam works about 24 hours a day. If she could, she'd work 28, but she has put in an enormous amount of time over the last 2 years, and we are very grateful for her. We also have Debbie Johnser and we have Leslie Stroshine that are the 2 deputy CFOs. And then Michael Peterson with the budget team is here as well and has been instrumental in us preparing some of the fund balance information in my memo. So for the overview of the audit, I'm going to turn it over briefly to Jacob. If you're online, if you want to go ahead and cover the slide that's on the screen.
Great. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, County Administrator, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight the 2023 financial statement audit results. Like Shelley said, my name is Jacob Holman, a partner here in Kansas City with Forbes Mazars, and I lead our public sector here locally. So tonight, I really just wanted to go through about 3 main things, talk about the scope of the audits we were engaged to perform, talk about a status update of those audits, and really go through a scorecard for the commissioners. And when I say a scorecard, really the 10,000-foot level items. If I was in your shoe, what do I need to know as it relates to the audit process? So from a scope, we were engaged to perform 2 audits. We're going to focus tonight really on the financial statement audit. So the what we call the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. We were also engaged to perform a compliance-based audit or a single audit over your federal grant funds. So from a status update, we did issue our financial statement audit the first week of November, and we are getting close on the compliance-based audit to having that wrapped up over your federal awards. As part of the financial statement audit, we were actually engaged to start the audit in the middle of March 2024. Once we were engaged, we started what we call our planning or risk assessment, which is really where we gain an understanding of the control environment as it relates to financial reporting. So we look at transaction cycles that are the in-level transaction cycles, your IT controls, your cash inflows in the Treasury Department, your cash outflows, payroll, investing, financing, and finally your pension and your OPEB or your retiree healthcare controls as it relates to financial reporting. If there was any control issues that came out of that, we would put those in your governance letter and talk through those as part of the scorecard. In addition, we look at your segregation of duties as it relates to the major transaction cycles of your inflows in your Treasury Department, again, and your outflows as well as the payroll transactions. Following that, we spend a lot of time really on your property tax parcel listings, really just ensuring that we understand the billing and collecting process and that there is a good system of controls through that property tax billing and collection process. And the conclusion of that, we design our audit procedures and we do substantive procedures over all of the information that is actually in the ACFR with a focus on the basic set of financial statements. So as part of that audit, we look at the information on the face of the financials, but we also look to ensure that the information in the footnotes are materially and accurate and all the required footnotes are included. So as part of that, there's several significant estimates that we focus on, and we want to make sure as part of that, the significant estimates that are in your financial statements, that the data inputs are good and supportable data inputs, and that there's no management bias in those estimation process. So some of the more significant estimates we focused on this year was the useful lives of capital assets. So how long are the capital assets going to be able to be utilized? The estimated property tax collections on your receivables, The actuarial assumptions that go into your pension and your OPEB liabilities. We looked at your self-insurance as it relates to certain lines of business. We reviewed your landfill obligation post-closure liability, and we looked at the obligation and reporting requirements as it relates to star bond liability and any kind of conduit debt to ensure there was not any additional or voluntary commitments that were necessary to be recorded. So at the conclusion, I really kind of want to just go through a scorecard and talk through the most important things of the audit process. So like Shelley said, this was another year of change. This is our second year working with the unified government and working with management as your external auditors. And this year, management was really working through a new ERP system. So this was the first year that they were working in Workday. The general ledger was in Workday. There was certain information, payroll information that was still in another system. But in addition to that, they were still onboarding and training new individuals in their accounting department throughout the audit process. So with that in mind, I believe management maintained their professionalism throughout the audit period. They were very courteous to my team and truly appreciate the environment that they created for myself and my team. A lot of hard work. If you have a draft of the actual ACFR, a lot of hard work that goes into that ACFR. Management actually prepares that ACFR, and we audit the information to ensure it is good and complete and accurate information. So I just wanted to point that out. From an accounting policies standpoint, there was 2 new accounting standards that management adopted during the year. The first one is called GASB 94, Public-Private and Public-Public Partnerships and Availability Payment Arrangements. That did not have a material impact, but management did have to go through the analysis and review the contracts that are in place to get to that conclusion. The second one was GASB 96, subscription-based IT arrangements. So that's really your software contracts. That one did actually gross up your statement of net position or your balance sheet. No impact on net position or equity at the adoption, but did increase your assets by about $9.6 million for that software asset and $9.6 million for the related lease liability that will ultimately be paid to the software vendor over the life of the contract. From a journal entry standpoint, there was 10 material entries that are disclosed in the governance letter. That came out of the audit process. Things that came out was franchise tax accrual, areas such as grant accounting, litigation, cutoff of accounts payable, and current year activity of the land bank. In addition to items that were recorded and are presented in your final financial statements, there is a section at the back of what we call the management representation letter for schedule of uncorrected misstatements. And there was about 15 to 20 journal entries that were included in that schedule of uncorrected misstatements that came out of the audit process, but both management as well as Forbes Mazars agreed that both individually and in the aggregate, those journal entries were not necessary to present appropriate and materially correct financial statements. So those will be recorded in future years in fiscal year 2024. From a controlled efficiency standpoint, at the back of the single audit or the back of the GAGS opinion, there are 5 findings that I just wanted to kind of high level point out. That is down from 6 findings. So I think that management is going in the right direction. Those findings really relate to the number of material audit adjustments, the ability to track and record grants, the cash inflow, segregation of duties as it relates to the Treasury Department, reconciliation and approvals around purchase cards, and with the conversion over to Workday, it's really just ensuring that all of the accounts and funds are appropriately recorded in Workday and not done outside of the accounting system. The thing to point out with those findings, management does have a corrective action plan that has been released to us, and I believe a lot of those are in the works, and hopefully that number continues to decrease as it relates to findings in future years. As it relates to the ACFR itself, we did issue what we consider a clean or unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of opinion that an auditor can issue on financial statements. Again, that means we believe that the financial statements are materially accurate and all the required disclosures are appropriately included. The other thing I wanted to point out before I talk about financial metrics is really just talk through some of the different areas of the ACFR. It's a very thick document, but there's a lot of good information. The first part of the financial information outside of our independent auditors report is really management discussion analysis. And that's a good section to look at for the users of the financial statements. It gives a narrative of some of the changes over the last 2 years. So if you're looking for what was the financial changes year over year, and what were the percentage changes of certain line items, that's a really good place to go to read management's narrative of those changes. The thing I wanted to point out at the back of the report is actually a statistical information, and it has 10 years of financial information, as well as certain non-financial information for the last 10 years. So if you're looking at trends of how the finances of the government have moved over the last 10 years, definitely focus on that statistical section at the back of the ACFR. And from a financial metrics, I think it's always important to discuss the financial metrics as part of the ACFR presentation. The general fund ended with fund balance of $68.8 million. Of that fund balance, $62.1 million was considered unassigned fund balance. So the unassigned fund balance metric we review as part of our audit is the number of months of revenues in your unassigned fund balance. So you ended the year at 3.6 months of revenue, which is up from the prior year of 3.4. Second thing I wanted to point out from a financial metric is in the special grants fund, which is a major fund. There's $42 million of unearned revenue at year end. So that is cash that has been received, but the expenditures have not occurred yet. So really just wanted to point out that is related to the ARPA grant, and those funds need to be obligated by year end and spent in the next 2 fiscal years. So just wanted to point out that is a large number for unearned revenue. The next thing, really just want to talk through the government activities. The government activities, which is your government-wide net position or equity, decreased from $37 million to $22 million. And your business type activities or your enterprise funds, including Board of Public Utilities, increased from $690 million to $747 million. There's a couple other things that were in your governance letter that I just wanted to point out, not necessarily from a deficiency standpoint, but really just wanted to make sure that the commissioners were aware of this. There is a best practice comment around the statement of substantive interest or a conflict of interest statement. Really just the recommendation is that is completed annually for key individuals, and wanted to point that out. The other thing out there, there is a note out there that if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend you reading it. Really it's just experiencing, public sector organizations are experiencing an elevated cyber level threat, and really just a reminder to keep this top of mind in the need for a cybersecurity risk assessment and incident response plan for all public sector organizations due to this elevated cybersecurity threat. In conclusion, I just want to thank you again for the time to present this evening and the opportunity to work with Unified Government for their fiscal year 23 audit. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Committee, any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Holman, I think you must have done a good job explaining the results of the audit. I would just like to bring to the committee's attention that the tardiness of the audit had a number of factors that played into this. And that's that this was only the second year they were behind on the 22 audit, but they got us caught up. Next year, the audits will be on time, but we had a new IT system. We also had a new contract auditor. We had new staff, as well as a new administrator. So a number of things played into this, but the report is before you. Should you have any questions, Ms. Knieven has made herself available for any staff questions that may come forward from any of us. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, is this, I'm not sure if this ties into why the tax bills are being late, or late going out. Does this have anything to do with the?
It's not. They're not related at all. Our computer system, which a number of counties in Kansas use, had an issue with it. And even though like the tax levies for all the taxing districts was right, we double check and we like check actual bills, spot check them, and it wasn't calculating right, just like the simple math was incorrect. And so they had to do a complete reboot of the system essentially. Monica might have some more information, but they've been instrumental in working with Treasury, and those are now at the printer to go out.
Okay, so it just wasn't our system, it was other counties' system too.
And it's a different system than the one that Commissioner Burrows was referencing. It's called CIC, which,
Commissioner Lopez, to add to that, one of the functions of the clerk's office is to establish those levies and make sure that they're correct. We use software called Computer Information Concepts. It's used all over the state of Kansas. There were 6 other counties in the state that experienced similar problems that we did with the vendor. We worked very closely with the vendor. We actually had the tax statements done and discovered that there was a corruption in some of the formulas. We couldn't let those go out. We were not gonna do that, so, because they were incorrect. So we had to reboot the system back 2 weeks and redo all the formulas and redo all the calculations. It was a lengthy process. We got through it. The tax statements are correct. We are 100% certain of that. We have sent our audit to the state. We're good to go.
And what was the name of that computer system you said?
It's called Computer Information Concepts, CIC.
Oh,
For sure.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Monica, is there a date certain that those will be mailed for those that may be listening?
They're being mailed now.
Thank you.
believe
They're in the
they'll
process
be
of
in the
printing.
mail.
Yeah.
They're at the printer, and I believe it'll be Monday and Tuesday that they're like actually out in circulation.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
So I have a little bit more information that was provided in the packet at the request of the commission. I will be very brief on this because it is quite complicated, to be very honest. This was a heavy, heavy lift in order to try to simplify information, which is, it's just technical information. But there's been a lot of discussion about the ACFR, waiting for the ACFR so that we know what our fund balances are. And whether or not there was any additional revenue realized that might be available in 25 to help us with some of our budgetary issues. So you have a memo as well as in the PowerPoint, which is in your packet, some of the charts that give you the information. Feel free to read it, digest it, call me. I will talk you through it. I won't take the time now in light of the hour, but a couple of quick, just high level things, okay? So there's 3 things that are important with any fund. What you're looking for is what's the change in net revenue, which means just for that year, what's all the new revenue coming in for the city general fund, county general fund, and what are the planned expenditures? Okay, and are we balanced? Is it a balanced budget? Our new revenue covers our new expenses. And as you know, in the county and the city, we've had times in the recent past that we did not have balanced budgets, and we're using those fund balances to pay for the ongoing operating expenses, which is not a best practice. And is something that we made some real strides in 25, even though we were doing revenue neutral, to start correcting some of those and not using fund balances on any of our major funds. The second thing is something called the cash basis fund balance. So if you look in your budget book on every major fund at the bottom of the page, you're going to see 2 figures. You're going to see something called the cash basis fund balance, and then you'll see the ACFR, or the Annual Consolidated Financial Report. I keep doing that. It's Comprehensive Financial Report fund balance. Okay, those 2 numbers relate to one another, but they're not the same thing. Okay, so for purposes of the rest of the world, when they look and say, how much fund balance does the unified government have? And we have a standard for our general funds of 25%. They're looking at that bottom number, the ACFR number. Okay, and that's where we calculate our fund balance. But in terms of money that's available to be used, that's the cash basis. So there's other accounting treatments and details, but the big difference between the 2 numbers are that the cash basis reports out cash that is not already obligated or encumbered from any prior year. So you know we have infrastructure projects, and those infrastructure projects don't get done all in one year. So those dollars go into a project account, and then those dollars are encumbered as we get a contractor, and then the work continues. Okay, we don't reappropriate them. We don't do anything beyond just encumber them because they were already approved as part of a prior year budget. But the cash basis is basically what is available that's not obligated for another project. Okay, it's part of the ACFR fund balance. Okay, but the ACFR fund balance looks at that number, cash, plus the encumbrances. Okay, because if we had a catastrophic event, we very well may go in and cancel encumbrances, cancel contracts. We need cash. And so that's why that number is important. And that's what the accounting standard is to calculate the fund balance. But they're not the same thing. So for the budget purposes, you look at the cash basis, okay, and that tells you like if there's money available, but know that that number is a subset in the ACFR fund balance, okay? But it's part of what we consider when we're putting together a budget each year, okay? Are there some fund balance funds in excess of what we need that can be reappropriated? And the dedicated sales tax is a good example where we've had a process over several years of our fund balance was high because they weren't getting projects done. The funds weren't even being encumbered. They hadn't done the RFP or whatever. And so the money went back to fund balance, but we want to use it for the purposes it's to be used for. So then it's reappropriated, okay? So the 23 ACFR and how it relates to the 25 budget is basically a question that's been being asked. And you've got a memo in your packet that goes through each one of the major funds. It looks at the city general fund, the county general fund, it looks at the parks combined fund, and then the dedicated sales tax. And the bottom line is because we are updating those numbers as information becomes available. So as the 25 budget is being done, we have contemporary information about what's happened in 23. It's not fully vetted, it's not fully audited, but it's updated, it's current. And so we're looking for, okay, was our estimate of how the year end was going to happen close to what happened with the ACFR, the audited number? And the bottom line for the 3 of the 4 major funds is the answer is yes, they were very close, sometimes within $10,000. And so no, there's no additional funds for the city, county general funds, and the dedicated park fund. And for the sales tax fund, I do an analysis of that. There's probably a 200,000 roughly that could be reappropriated. We have a little bit too high fund balance, but it's a very unusual fund because it's sales tax that is divided between 3 areas: police, fire, infrastructure, neighborhood infrastructure, which is predominantly capital. Okay, so you don't really need to have an emergency fund for your capital. That's just projects. Okay, but you do for those fire and police because those are operating dollars. And so I've kind of recalculated what I believe, and I offered up an explanation of what that fund balance really should be, which is about $2 million. And then that would leave about 200 more that could be reappropriated for a project that's eligible for that particular funding source. So I promise I won't go through this, but you've got some visual charts, okay, that show you what's happened over the year from when we did the 23 amended to the 23 actual, which is the ACFR, to the 24 adopted, to the 24 amended, and then what was proposed in 25. What's good about this chart is just it shows you in 25 we were balanced. We had a balanced budget. We didn't use our fund balance to pay for a 1-year snapshot of revenue and expenses. Okay, so it gives you a good illustration, more detail in the memo. When you look at, when you look at the county general fund, a quick takeaway from this one is that, as we all know, this is a fund that's in trouble. This is a fund where we have steadily over the years been using our fund balance, and it is not where it needs to be for a major fund funding a lot of our operations. So it should be by policy adopted by the commission 25%, and it's at about 10%. And if you take out everything that's encumbered, it's only at about 5%. So that's really a tight window. For, I'm sorry. For the Parks Combined Fund change, and oh, I forgot I did all kinds of charts. There's too many charts for me to cover for you all. But the change in net revenue, again, you're seeing that we had a positive in 25, so we weren't using the fund balance. This shows you that our cash basis is remaining pretty steady. And then our ACFR was very close. This is a good example of what we thought it would be when when we presented the 25 budget. We thought that 23 to 24 to 25, the 3.289 million, you compare that to the 3.3 million. It's really close because it's updated information as things happen, as bids come in, as things get encumbered. So I'll pause there. I know it's a lot of detail, but if I bottom lined it, it's just to say that with the ACFR, and why we need to be back on time on the time schedule of being done like by the end of June is because that's important for our budgetary process for calculating fund balances. But then it's also important because we're reconciling the differences between what cash is not obligated, not encumbered, versus what is, and making sure that we have some liquidity, if that makes sense to you. So important to get that information, but I have to say that despite having it be so delayed, the team did a phenomenal job. When I looked at how the ACFR ended with what was estimated, they were exceptionally close. So with that, I'll pause, encourage you to read the information. If you've got questions, again, I'm glad to walk through the details. It's a lot of details. So I'll just let you one-on-one. If you want to go through it, I'm glad to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Knieven. Any questions, comments, committee? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the overview, and committee, I do want to bring to your attention that it is in your binder. Hard copies are available for your review, and I'd encourage you to look at the report. With that, that takes us to that concludes a portion of our regular meeting, and I adjourn us in that capacity. And just for you, this was for information only. No action necessary. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn as the Board of Commission and call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees.
David, second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This takes us to the portion of the Land Bank Board of Trustees consent agenda. Does any member of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the Land Bank consent agenda?
David, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Committee, with no further business. Thank you, Mr. King.
You know, we have an opportunity today. You know, it's Mayor Pro Tem's birthday. We did get him a cake, but we had so many candles that filled the cake, we couldn't do it.
Happy birthday.
So happy birthday, brother.
to you.
Thank you, everyone. I sincerely
Happy
appreciate it.
To you.
As I don't mind spending my time with my friends and my fellow colleagues when it comes to when it comes to doing people's work. But thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it. We do have a motion and a second for adjournment.
Yeah.
Motion.
Yeah.
David, second.
Second.
No, we'll do it again. Motion and a second for adjournment.
Absolutely.
All right,
I'll
Madam Clerk.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Burns.
Yes, I just want to wish everyone in Wyandotte County a happy Thanksgiving and a safe one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second for adjournment. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That is all the work before us this evening. Please have a happy holiday and a safe holiday. We'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. We are adjourned.